as far as I'm concerned, and this might sound a little extreme and radical, but I have pretty much written off every black celebrity. If your name is a household name, I'm done. That doesn't mean that you're not a talented person. That doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. It just means my expectation level of you is zero. You are useless to me in the fight. So the fact that you've been allowed to become successful, I have written you off. I know that you probably are successful because you stand for nothing, and you're not going to stand up for anything. And at the worst, you're going to promote white supremacy. So I won't even get started. But as far as I can see, black celebrity worship is the death of black youth.
Wow. You have, you all have another portion in the book where you talk about the dangers of white identification, specifically for young non-white people, black people, to be young, white identified, and black ain't where it's at. Being white identified is extremely dangerous for naive young blacks. Because they lack life experience, they believe having white friends means they will not be as vulnerable to racism as less assimilated blacks. However, once they leave the nest of familiar surroundings and people, they are unprepared for the racism they will encounter socially or in the workplace with unfamiliar whites. After high school or college, young white-identified blacks often discover their white friends are dropping by the wayside. Of course, this is not always due to race, but race increases the likelihood that their white friendships will bite the dust. As whites make the transition into adulthood and compete for jobs, lovers, and peer approval, the lines separating black and white become more distinct. The peer pressure for whites to not be too friendly with blacks will come from a variety of sources, including their white neighbors, relatives, co-workers, employers, or even from their intimate partners. This may force some whites to realize their black friendships are more disposable than white peer approval. Unfortunately, the only one left in the dark, pun intended, is the white-identified black who never saw it coming. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a real common scenario, and I've seen it happen quite a few times where a black person and a white person will be friends, say in high school, maybe even college, and that white person will get married, or they'll move into another area, or they'll go into their career, and that black person will find themselves pretty much eliminated from that person's life in any real way. I've seen the peer pressure. For example, excuse me, on the previous job, any of the white employees that really became too friendly with the black employee, was kind of viewed with suspicion, and I've seen that happen. I've seen where you know a white person, and then they move to another city. Well, now they're around a different crowd, and they change towards you. I've had people tell me all kinds of stories, people that they thought were friends until that person's circumstances changed, and then they found that they really didn't have a friend.
I have a couple of white friends, I walk up to them speaking, and I'm like, hey, T. I'm like, hey, Heather. I don't have a problem with them. They like me, I like them. But mostly, we talk, we speak. We don't hang with each other. I don't go to my white friend's house because I might not feel comfortable in there. Their parents might not accept me. I just can't go and sit on their couch. I gotta know that I gotta feel welcome. But they can come over my house if they want to. I think the problem's been separate all these years because a little racism, and some people, parents, don't want the black and the white to come together. They still stuck on that stuff that happened back then. I thought one of my teachers loved me, loved all of us, both black and white. But it come to the surface that she really don't want the prom to go on. She really don't want to see the prom happen. I never knew she would like that until the way her actions been showing this week and all last week. And before we come in here to talk to you, she always tell us we ain't got to say nothing we don't want to say. We ain't got to ask no question we don't want to ask. You know, and we know all that, just we want to tell you all the truth because it's too much of this racism going down in Charleston.
My name is Harley Boone. I'm graduating on May 22nd at 8 o'clock at Brogdon Field. In Montgomery County, we don't have a school-sponsored prom. We have a private prom. It's always been segregated. There's always been 2 separate proms. It don't seem like a big deal around here. I mean, you know, it's just what we know and what our parents have done for so many years. In our school system, you know, it's not really about being racist or having, you know, all white friends or all black friends. We all hang out together. We're all in the same classes. We all eat lunch together at the same tables. And, you know, it's not about what color you are. It's about your attitude and how you present yourself and how you take care of yourself. It's not if you're black or if you're white.
So there's one story in particular that we tell in the book. It's called The Commentary, and it's called Our Children Are Watching. And it was basically a story about a segregated prom in the year, I believe, 2009. And these students, you know, they went, it was in the South, I think, in Georgia. It was a so-called integrated school, but it had a 38-year tradition of hosting 2 racially segregated proms. The black prom was open to all the students. The white prom, however, had strict rules that excluded the black students. And we're talking about the year 2009. And you want to talk about mass confusion. These black students, because they had come up through this white supremacy system and were taught by the system as well as their black parents that going to school with white people is something special. Now, make no mistake about it. When you insist that your children go to an integrated school, that they have to sit next to a white person to get a good education, you are basically programming them to believe in white supremacy. So the kids are very smart. They don't miss the subtlety of that lesson. You're saying that quality comes from being around white people. Anything that's all black is not going to be of quality. So you got these students in this integrated school probably being made to feel that they're lucky to be there, and they think they have friends with they think they're friends with their white classmates. However, when it comes to the prom, the white classmates don't have a problem with a segregated prom. As a matter of fact, there's one of the statements that one of the senior white girls said, it's really not about being racist or having white friends or black friends, assisted one white female student. We all hang out together. We're all in the same classes. We all eat lunch together at the same table. It's not about what color you are. It's not about if you're black or white. Okay, that's all good and fine, but you have no problem with going to a prom that excludes black students, these same black students that you claim that you're friends with. So, and these students, they don't have any resources to fall back on, no knowledgeable adults to pull their coat and tell them what's really going on. So in their confusion, they want to go, they feel hurt. And it was really, really, really sad is on the evening of the white prom, which was held the night before the black prom, another white supremacy move. The white prom comes before the black prom. A small group of black male and female students stood outside the white prom to applaud and snap photos as their white classmates strutted into the building. Now here it is, you've got these black students standing outside a building that they're not allowed to enter because their friends are going inside. And they're taking pictures. and they're taking pictures, and yet and still when the black prom comes, I'm sure their white friends weren't standing outside taking pictures of them. So this is the kind of madness and psychological insanity that black young people are being subjected to. And, you know, they're very hurt by that. They're hurt by the exclusion. But the thing I found that was interesting was one of the mothers who, one of the daughters who was going to the prom, the black mothers, she said that she attended a segregated prom 3 decades ago. And she said, it's hard to see my girl in the same situation I was in 30 years ago. So the point is that if you, oh my goodness, it's just really amazing. You know, I mean, I'm just, you know, thinking that these white students are your friends. But there's one thing that, you know, the point that we try to make is right here, we have not taught our children what a true friend is not. A true friend is not anyone who condones your mistreatment. A true friend is not anyone who condones, oh, here, I'm sorry, I misread it. Anyone who condones your mistreatment is not your friend. Anyone who condones your mistreatment should never be your friend. Anyone who condones your mistreatment cannot be trusted. By accepting their bad behavior, you are teaching others to mistreat you. So the thing is that these same students who think that these white students are their friends, I guarantee you, they'll be looking back 30 years from now saying the same thing that mother said of that girl, basically that nothing had changed. And that by the time these students have to compete for a lover, for a spouse, for a job, for status, those black friends will now be the people that they have to continue to mistreat in order to maintain their white privileges. So we've got to do a better job of training our children, and the best way to start is we got to start getting real with ourselves. Back in when my sister was, I guess in college days, they had the flower power generation, you know, the love-in, the hippies. And everybody thought then that this was a new white generation and that, you know, they were going to be different than their parents. But guess what? When those hippies started cutting their hair off and shaving their faces and having to go get a job, you found that you were dealing with the same kind of racism that your parents were dealing with. So I guess the point I'm making is that when a person's really young, and obviously we're not training our kids in the realities of the world. We're just not doing it. They're coming out into the world and they're getting their head bumped the same way we got our heads bumped. And if they don't do a better job with their children are going to get their heads bumped the same way they got their heads bumped. So that's why, you know, the idea of being white identified and young is so dangerous, because for some people, they bounce back. You know, they get bruised up and they bounce back. But some of our black youth are not going to bounce back. They're going to be devastated by the reality that they're going to face coming into the world thinking that they're going to be accepted as equals because they have white friends. And it's just not true.
Have you, by the way, you ever experienced racism?
Of course. I think, you know, it's definitely something it's here, but I think it's getting a lot better. And I always try to focus on the positive and the progress that we've made. And there's so many people that have sacrificed and have gone through so much for us. And now we don't have to experience it as much. And I almost, you know, I believe that slowly we hopefully in a couple of years we'll all be all mixed up and it won't exist.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would be wonderful.
We're going to take a